My guest today is Steve Hertzberg, something of a master salesman. Steve helps the big end of town get the most from their sales teams and has worked with the likes of the ANZ Bank, Microsoft, Toyota, the Flight Centre, Commonwealth Bank, Lend-Lease and many, many more. He also shares his expertise with medium and small business through a series of public programs. Steve's business is NRG Solutions and I'm delighted to have him in the studio. Our topic is Get That Sale. Hi Steve.
Hi Rob, nice to be here.
So Steve, particularly at times like this, we all want sales. How do we really go about mastering this kind of age-old art?
Yeah, well, it's a very good point. I mean, there's no one solution to becoming a master salesperson, but I think if you do a few things well, you can be very successful in selling, whether you work for a large organisation or in a small business. Okay. And I always think when you look at really good salespeople, there's three things that always occur. First thing, they have high energy levels. Now, I like that because it's a bit of branding for NRG, but they do a lot. They're out and about, they speak to lots of people. I often think of the quote by Woody Allen. He said, 80% of life is just turning up. Right. And you'd be amazed what happens if you keep turning up often enough. So they make more calls, they're in touch with a lot of people, they're blogging, they're at events, they do a lot of things every day.
So very active, very outgoing as a prerequisite.
I think to be successful, you've got to find a way of communicating a lot with a lot of people. That's the first thing that you always see. I think the second thing is confidence. And you've got to be confident in the products or services you're selling, and you've got to be confident in who you are. And you've only got to think about if you're going into, I don't know, buy a flat screen TV at Harvey Norman on the weekend, you'd probably be inclined to buy from someone who is confident in the product that they're selling to you.
Knew what they were talking about, able to answer your question.
Yeah, I think it's very important. Technical skills, product knowledge, knowledge of the industry, and that oozes from them in the way they communicate. And I think the third thing that I see over and over again in very good salespeople is they're good at getting their customers to articulate their needs. So they're good at asking questions and listening and probing, and their customers will then tell them what they want. So they're kind of three things that I consistently see.
So this whole kind of asking questions, I mean, certainly my observations as well with small businesses, we don't do it enough. I mean, do you have any kind of opening questions that somebody might use to kind of get the dialogue happening?
Yeah, well, I think any question that demonstrates that you're interested in the customer's business and their problems and the challenges that they have. So in general, people will purchase something normally because of pleasure, occasionally because of pain. Yeah. So your skill when you're in sales is to find out where do the problems exist.
Where's the pain?
Yeah, and to some extent, what are the impacts to their business, or what's the impact to their business of the problems that they're having. So I think questions that help you get a lie of the land and an understanding of the challenges that your customer is facing can help a lot.
Okay. And again, would you say that a lot of businesses go out kind of selling with sometimes too much gusto, trying to sell too hard? Do you observe much of that going on?
Yeah, definitely. I think you can oversell, and I think the market is, let's say, a bit slower now, depending on what the line of work that you're in. But for most people, it's a bit tougher in this market. So you can sort of smell of desperation. I think you're far better off maintaining communication with your customers in the right way. Don't try too hard. The customer will be ready to buy at a certain point in time. And the key is that they're thinking of you, not your competitors, when they're ready to buy.
So you talk about maintaining the sale. What are some examples? How can we do that?
Well, I think
or maintaining the dialogue, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's about finding the balance. I often think it's how do you find the balance between being a stalker and staying in touch? And it's very much an individual thing, but it might be that you maintain communication with your customers perhaps once a month, maybe once a quarter. And there's different ways you can do this depending on your line of work. But you might, some people, you might blog and you might get people to subscribe to your blog. Yep. You may have a newsletter, electronic newsletter. You might invite people to events or seminars. In our work, we're professional services. We send to our existing clients, often we send them a book. We might think this is a book that they might be interested in. So it's a little thank you note to say thank you for your support. And by the way, here's something that might be appealing to you in your professional life.
And again, something in the example of a book, presumably a book that relates very strongly to their burning needs, not your desire to flog them stuff.
Well, absolutely. I mean, selling's not really about you. And I think once you realise that, you can be successful. It's about your customers and the challenges that they face. So you have to take a genuine interest in them. And if you do that, Robert, then I think you can be successful.
Okay. I know a particular kind of bugbear of yours is following up, is staying in touch. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I talk about you've got to plug the leaks in your sales pipeline. So most people who work in business will understand a pipeline or a funnel. So you put a lot of activity into the top of the funnel, and some of those opportunities will work their way through and become pieces of business for you. But I think where a lot of inexperienced marketers and salespeople don't understand is that there will be leaks, and your skill is to plug those leaks by staying in touch with your customers. And because buying cycles and selling cycles don't always line up.
Right.
So you've got to use your skills to just maintain a level of communication so that when that customer is ready to purchase, hopefully they're thinking of you. And I think you've got to be creative. I read once you should follow up with your customers until they buy, until they die, or until they politely tell you that enough's enough.
Right.
So a bit of creativity sometimes helps with your follow-up as well.
Okay. Are there any particular kind of sales clangers that you observe out in the marketplace?
When you say clangers, what
things that maybe businesses don't do well? Are there any particular ones that kind of?
Well, one thing is probably that I just mentioned is poor follow-up. So I think a classic mistake in business-to-business selling is a business person talks to somebody about an opportunity. The client says, "Well, look, or the prospect says, can you send me through a proposal?" So of course, the salesperson sends through a proposal, and a week or two passes, and they haven't heard back from that person. And then they're wondering, well, what's happened here?
What do I do now?
Yeah, what do I do? And I think when a customer says, hey, can you send me through a proposal, often that's a polite way of saying I'm not really ready to buy now. So I think I'm always wary when a customer is saying send me through a proposal. I want to find out more, and I'm interested in how do we actually start moving things forward, sometimes before we even get to the proposal stage.
Right.
I'm not saying that sending a proposal is necessarily a bad thing, but I think often
sometimes it's used in that way.
It's a polite way of saying I'm not really ready to buy yet.
Okay. Well, look, Steve, thank you. Where can we find out more about your work? On your website?
Yeah, look, if you go to nrgsolutions.com.au, and there's information there about the things that our business does, and we have an e-newsletter people can subscribe to.
I thought you might.
Yeah, and so there's plenty of information there.
Great. Okay, Steve, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for your time, Robert.